Welcome back. Welcome to the Rocky Mountain View. My name is Lee. Great to see you again. Man, isn't this beautiful? I'm on the Kananaskis Trail. I'm probably about 50 kilometers south of Longview. It's cold. I'm not going to kid you. It's probably a little colder than the last time I was out here. It's right around zero. A little windier than the other day. I'm hoping my microphone, my little buffer on my microphone won't pick up that wind, or I'll have to try to edit it out somehow. But isn't that a beautiful view? As I mentioned the other day, I'm thinking of putting an intro together to my videos, but how do I compete with this? I would rather just give you an opportunity to see the beauty of God's creation. This is just unbelievable. I'll pan the camera around when I'm finished as well. But like I say, welcome to a Rocky Mountain View. I'm going to read a quick email that I received, and then I'll do a little talking. This is new for me. I normally have a script. I normally use my, can't remember what you call it, my little teleprompter. I've given up on that because I want this to be more natural. So I hope you enjoy today's episode. So let's get to the first email. Got my bear spray. I'm ready. Hello Lee, my name is Laura. Our family had an experience years ago that forever changed our lives and our relationship with God. It all happened when my son was 7. He's now 21. He'd gone outside to play behind our home with some other boys in a small creek while I remained in the house cooking supper. Suddenly, he staggered through the back door screaming. I turned around and could see that one of his eyes was bleeding, not just around the eye, but the actual eyeball itself. I covered his eye with a dish towel, then ran to the front room to scream for my sister-in-law to come to help. And thank God my husband had just returned home from work. We rushed as quickly as we could to the hospital, with me sitting in the back seat with my son on my lap. He and I were both crying, while at the same time I was praying to God. A CAT scan at the hospital showed that he had bleeding behind the eye and into his brain. The doctor didn't believe his eye could be saved and did not know if the bleeding in the brain could be stopped. They said he would need to be flown to a larger hospital more than a half an hour away from our home. It was by far the worst day of my life. My sister immediately left to go to the other hospital, to be there for when the plane arrived, while my husband and I stayed with my son until the plane lifted off. Then we went back home to pack clothes to stay at the hospital. While we were there, my sister-in-law came over and told me that my husband's cousin, Tim, had heard the news and called. I dialed the number she gave me and asked to speak to him. As soon as he answered the phone, I said, "Tim, I don't have much time to talk. They think he might have to have his eye removed, and they are worried about the bleeding in his brain." The voice on the other end of the phone asked, "Who are you, and who are you trying to get a hold of?" "Isn't this Tim?" I asked. "Yes," he said, "but I don't believe I know you or your son." I apologized to him for having dialed the wrong number. He said, "Look, before you go, I don't know who you are, but I am a preacher at a local church, and I promise I'll pray today for you and your son." Not thinking much of the call, I thanked him, hung up, and we hurried to my son's side. After a week in the hospital, the bleeding around our son's brain had subsided. His broken facial bones were fixed, and though he did lose the sight in his eye, he did not lose the eye itself. We praised God for his goodness. Once my son was home, my dad said he would like to take him to his church and have the preachers anoint him with oil and pray for him, a laying on of hands. Our church elders did that for me when I was a young boy and had a disease that was considered incurable in my legs. Someday I'll have to tell you what happened, and obviously I'm walking around, so there is a story to it. Getting back, upon entering the church, a young preacher introduced himself to us and said, "My name is Tim. I have been at this church for over a year, and I know this young boy's grandfather quite well." When he told me that his grandson had been injured, I asked what happened, and he said he'd had an eye injury when an older child hit him with a rock. Tim, the preacher, then explained that it was he who had received my phone call. the day of the accident, instead of my husband's cousin who had the same name. It was at that moment that I realized God had answered my prayer that day and helped me dial that wrong number. I know He gave me the number of the man needed to pray for my child's life and safe return home. I was truly blessed by a guardian angel. I had prayed for God's help on the way to the hospital, and He sent it in a man named Tim. Wow. You know, I mentioned in a previous video about all the little things that happen in our lives. And little things that often come together at just the right moment. And then when they do come together, we go, boy, the stars lined up perfectly for me today. But I've often wondered if all those little coincidences that come together, all those little instances that come together, aren't really God's way of letting know that He's always keeping an eye on us, that He always knows what's going on. Well, that's amazing. That is amazing. Okay, I got another email, but before I read it, I'd like to talk to you a bit about this channel. I put this channel together so that during a tough time, during periods where we had to overcome something, people could come here and listen to stories of faith that other people experienced, life-changing moments or answered prayers. And I would like to ask at this time, I've received quite a few emails, but I would like to receive more. I would like to receive more stories. If you could, if you've had an experience that you would like to share that you think might help someone, maybe it helped you maybe you had an experience that helped you overcome a difficult period in your life through your faith, or maybe you had a prayer that you said and there was an answer to it immediately, or an answer to the situation that helped you get through it, please feel free to share that with us. That's really what this channel is all about. It's just people coming together and sharing their stories of faith to help bolster each other's faith and also to help bolster our own. It's really an affirmation, is basically what it is. And I'm going to be doing it from the Rocky Mountains. That's why I called it the Rocky Mountain View. I'm going to be picking different spots, coming out here and giving you an opportunity to see some of the beauty that's in Canada, this corner of Canada anyhow. It's truly unmatched. I honestly, I've been to a few different countries and I've never really come across anything that strikes me like this does. So to send those emails in, all you do is email it to therockymountainview@gmail.com. That's one long word, no capital letters, therockymountainview@gmail.com. And at the end of the video, I always put it into the description so that you'll see it there as well. Now remembering, please keep in mind, this is relatively new for me. The videos I had done previously, I do at my home and use a teleprompter. They're scripted. This is, I find, much more personal. This is how I want to do it. This is how I like to reach out. But unfortunately, there is a learning curve, obviously. I do have to do a lot of editing to get rid of my ums and my ahs. But please bear with me. I know that as time goes by, I'll become more comfortable in front of the camera. I will speak a little better and possibly not waste so much time drabbling on about something that doesn't need to be talked about. Anyhow, excuse me. This next letter, well, I'll start at the first here. Hello, Lee. My name is Sharon Wachowski, and I would like to tell you my story about the healing power of God. My life turned completely upside down when I was 57 years old and was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. At first, my symptoms were very minor, just numbness and tingling in my lower arms and a general feeling of overall weakness. But over the course of the next year, my condition progressed into long periods of uncontrolled shaking. At first, I would pray daily to God, often several times a day, begging for Him not to let this happen to me and wondering why it was happening to me. I could not accept it or understand it. My feelings were that I'd always been a regular church member for many years. I'd been baptized as a child, and I tried to follow the Lord's teachings, and yet this still was happening to me, and I was angry and having a difficult time accepting it. Soon, the everyday tasks that I had always taken for granted became nearly impossible. Before attempting anything, it would take me a long time just to force my body to work the way I needed it to, the way it used to. And I would have to think hard about what I wanted it to do, telling myself out loud, I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to give up. Even the simple things, like going up and down stairs, tying my shoes, or brushing my hair or teeth, became nearly impossible. I remember once trying to put the lid back on a pen that I've been trying to use, and becoming more and more angry and frustrated that I couldn't keep my hands still long enough. Finally, after several attempts, I had to lean my body against my hands on the edge of the kitchen counter before being able to line them up and hold them still long enough to push it back on. I also became a different person, unsure of myself, fumbling and dropping everything I was trying to hold, and often just frustrated and very upset, all because of a disease that was making my movements impossible for me to control. But I continued as best I could, attending church, singing in the choir, and sometimes even volunteering to teach a Sunday school class. Though I never accepted the doctor's diagnosis, and still was constantly wondering why God was allowing this to happen to me. Finally one day, I decided that I was going to put everything into God's hands. I couldn't take it anymore, so I prayed, Jesus, you're going to have to help me out because I can't deal with this disease anymore by myself. Almost instantly, a feeling of peace came over me, and a wonderful voice spoke softly inside my head. I will heal you, but it is not yet time. Months later, after just about giving up and forgetting what he'd promised that day, I went to church, where we were holding our weekly Bible study. It wasn't a special evening, just an opportunity for whoever wished to come in and sit and discuss different chapters or verses of the Bible. At the end, as we always did, we would then say a prayer, thanking God for his guidance, blessings, and knowledge. On this particular evening, just as we finished, the pastor walked over to me, and as we'd done many times before, we prayed together for God to ease my symptoms and to take the disease from my body. But this time, just as we began to pray, I began to shake uncontrollably. The pastor continued praying, and then all of a sudden, it just ended. My shaking completely stopped. And all I could think was, I'm not shaking anymore. I'm not shaking anymore. For the first time in many months, there was no part of me moving uncontrollably. It felt so unreal that I was scared to move or even to try and stand up. And ever since that night, my shaking has never returned. Today, I go for walks again. I can go up a flight of stairs, down a flight of stairs, tie my shoes, eat with a fork. I can even write a sentence that I can read. I can do everything that I couldn't before, but that I used to take for granted. And I'm so thankful that God cured me. People need to know that all you need to do is put all your trust in the Lord. For the longest period of time, I forgot and was so angry that I didn't understand that. All I did was feel sorry for myself and wonder why this disease had happened to me. I don't know what finally caused me that day to put everything into God's hands, but we need to remember that God always hears our prayers and is always with us. Thank you for reading my story. My hope is that maybe it will help someone else who is sick or feeling like God has forgotten them. My regards, Sharon. Wow, what a beautiful story. That is amazing. And I thank you very much for sharing that with us. You know, over the course of my life, I've read many stories like this, where it's a miracle, there's no doubt about it, where you're able to totally overcome something that supposedly is either life-threatening or life-ending. And all because of your faith in the Lord. And I thank you, Sharon. I thank you for sending that to me. Well, I think I'm going to pan the camera around a little bit, show you what I'm looking at here. And again, I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, send me an email, please. You can include your name or not. You don't need to. If you don't want me to read your name out loud, I won't. I'll keep it quiet. But here, I'm going to pan around, show you where I'm at. And then, to be honest with you, it's very windy, so I'm probably going to have to get out of here because I'm very worried that maybe the sound on that last video might not even be good. Anyhow, thank you very much. Have a great day and God bless you. So this is facing south. I guess you'd be toward Canmore, if about 150 kilometers that way, Trans-Canada Highway. So there's a valley there. I don't know what that river's called, but there's a valley runs through here. That river overflows its bank obviously quite a bit when the snowmelt comes. That's why you see everything all chewed up around there. In the summertime when you come down here, you'll find large trees, what have you, that's been pushed to the side, pushed down river. That mountain over there, I'll find the name out of that someday. I don't happen to know it right now, but man, that is beautiful. That is absolutely gorgeous. This is why I want to bring these videos to people from Rocky Mountain. I don't think people realize just how beautiful the country is just in a short distance from our homes, really. I'm only about 40 minutes from my house. Anyhow, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and we'll be seeing you. Bye now.